Good deal. All right. So my name is Samantha Bowers. I'm the consultant for continuing education here at the State Library of Iowa. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, I'm joined today by Jonathan Solomon from Brainfuse, who will be talking to us about Help Now. Nope, not Help Now. Talking to us about JobNow and VetNow. And so before we get started on that, just a couple housekeeping items. The first one, if you guys have been in our webinars before, you know the drill. If I can't see your first and last name, I'm going to send you a direct message asking for that information so that I can make sure you get credit for attendance from a CE perspective. If you want to complete that evaluation and earn the CE credit, I'm going to need to know your information before I can do that. The second piece of information is that we do have a closed caption feature enabled for today's webinar. You can toggle those on and off using the closed caption controls on your Zoom panel. And the last thing to say is that we will be using the chat feature. I have seen a few people have already found that. So if you have questions as we go today, feel free to submit those as we go along, and I'm going to collect them and we'll address them at the end. So once again, I'll turn it over to Jonathan Solomon from Brainfuse to talk to us about JobNow and VetNow. Thank you, Jonathan, for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Samantha. And one moment as I share my screen. And now you should all be able to see the JobNow VetNow homepage for the State Library of Iowa.
Yes, we can see that. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. So patrons across the state of Iowa have access to Help Now, which we've gone over previously, but also JobNow and VetNow. These are services that are geared towards a combination of different folks, from job seekers, teenagers who are trying to gauge the initial steps of searching for work, adults who are changing careers, as well as folks in our veterans communities, whether they're returning to civilian life or families of veterans as well. So when a patron goes to any of the library's websites across the state, they will find a JobNow VetNow link. And when they click that, they are brought here. This is their homepage. And when they are brought here initially, they are guests. So you do not need a Brainfuse account to use our services. Our main services, which would be, as you can see, our live job coaching or the live veteran navigator. However, there are certain features that require an account, and accounts are free. They don't require any personal information, not even an email address. And to create an account, patrons would simply click on a login button that is here. I'm actually in my demo account already, but they would click on login, then sign up, and they can complete the form. As a registered user, you then gain access and additional service see momentarily. There are also account features which allow a user or a patron to really make the most of their time using Brainfuse, whether it's with my past sessions, practice tests, and more. As we progress, I will show you how these account features tie into these services. So right at the top, you'll notice there is a job search box. And this is for people who perhaps are actively looking for work. They don't have to go to any external sites right off the bat. They can simply come here, type in a keyword, their location, and they'll be presented with search results for the details they provided. Now, there are two different live services featured in JobNow and VetNow. The first is geared towards job seekers, and that's where they can come to connect to live job coaches. Now you'll see the tutoring schedule here. I changed it since we're meeting earlier today. Typically, I believe the hours would be daily from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. local time. Today, it is 10 a.m., but typically it'll be a 1 p.m. start time to 10 p.m. And that is every day, including weekends. For the Live Veteran Navigator, the schedule is slightly different, where it'll be weekdays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. So if there's a patron, regardless of their age, they have some questions or they're looking for some advice about their resume, their cover letter, what to wear to an interview, what types of questions will be asked of them, what types of questions they should be asking their potential employer, or anything in between, a live job coach will be there to assist them. So let's connect and see what a whiteboard session looks like. And we are connected pretty instantaneously. Let me just let this tutor or live job coach know this is just a demo session. Okay, so as you just saw, on the right-hand side of this whiteboard is the chat area, and that's where I am communicating with the tutor and they can respond back to me. On the left-hand side, this mess of white space, this is what we refer to as the whiteboard proper. And this is where patrons can upload their resumes, cover letters, they can work on sample resumes, they can go over questions all through the whiteboard. And how do you do that? There are various types of whiteboard tools. Now on the top, you'll see this color wheel. This allows you to change the color of anything you put on the board. So if you want to write in orange text, you can do so. And if both you and the job coach are adding things to the board, whether it's you or the job coach, you can change your color so that it's more easily visible compared to the other party. Now, the pencil is the first tool, the base tool. And let me sample that. There's an undo tool, which allows you to go back. There's also a redo tool in case you went too far. You can clear the board entirely in one fell swoop by clicking on the X and then deciding to clear all. Here's the text allowing you to type. Then there is this edit tool, which is the pair of directional arrows. If you click on that and then click on something on the board, you can move it around to better fit your needs. Conversely, you also have the option of clicking into the box if you would like to edit the text. As such. So even if you happen to make an error as you're typing on the board, you can always go back and change that. There are also other tools which are more prevalent in academic sessions. So for example, there's a math equation editor. There's also geometric shapes. You can add arrows. There's also a number line. And then lines, which, as opposed to drawing it freehand and it coming out awkwardly, you can draw a straight one with this tool. And if you want to provide any touch-ups, you can also use the freehand erase tool. If you want to erase, you can do that. Also, you can, for example, let's say I have a picture of some questions, which I have here. If I copy and click anywhere on the board, and then Control V, I can then drag that picture onto the board and use that in this session. Conversely, if you go over here to the paperclip icon, you can upload a file from your computer or from your cloud pack, and that is an account feature we'll get to a little bit later on. The one last option over here on the left-hand side is this camera icon. That is the snap and send feature, which allows a patron, if they have a physical document in front of them, how do you then put that in your online whiteboard? It can be a bit cumbersome to snap a picture, email it to yourself, download it. That's a lot of steps. Well, there is a free version of the Brainfuse mobile app. It's available in the Google Play Store for Android devices, as well as the Apple Store for iOS devices. If you download the app, log in with your username and password, there'll be an option for snap and send. You can then snap a picture of that document and it will show up in your whiteboard session on your computer within a matter of seconds. So it's meant to save a few 30 seconds, a minute, make it a clear-cut process of turning something that's physical, a document, a resume that you have on hand, and sending it to the whiteboard. That is the snap and send feature. Over here, back to the right hand side of the whiteboard, next to the paperclip icon, is this translate option. This allows you to change the language of the conversation on the right. So if you're a patron whose home language is anything other than English, let's go with Russian. So if I am more comfortable communicating in Russian, I can change the language to Russian, and the conversation, whether it's taken place earlier or something I'm typing out right now, will appear to me in that language. So for example, you see the conversation has changed over to Russian. The job coach on the other side does not see this. They'll continue reading and communicating in English. It's just that it's automatically translated on the patron's end to that language. And if you happen to want to return to English, all you need to do, you can also change the language to something else. If you click on the red X, it returns to English. And that is a Brainfuse whiteboard session. Once you're done, you can click on the X beside the coach's name. You can also just close the window as you normally would. And that is how you return to your Brainfuse homepage. Now, once you're here, let's turn our attention to My Past Sessions. My Past Sessions is the area of your user account that saves every live session you've ever participated in, regardless of how long ago, regardless of how many live sessions, they will all be stored in this page. And once here, you'll notice the topmost session is the most recent one. So this is the one we just finished. You can replay it. And this will show both the whiteboard itself as well as the chat conversation. You can open up a transcript. You can convert to a Brainwave, which is a separate account feature we'll get to later on. And this will go back for as long as your account does. So for example, JobNow, VetNow through the State Library of Iowa originally launched in 2019. It seems like forever ago, but here, this demo account goes back to 2019. And if you wanted to, you could rewatch old sessions. They will all be stored here. Now let's go back to our homepage. Now, that's for a patron who is looking for help in any form of the job search, interviews, and more. What kind of help is there for a patron who perhaps doesn't have the time to jump into a live session right now, but they still need assistance? Well, the Resume Lab is for them. The Resume Lab allows patrons to submit their resumes and or their cover letters to Brainfuse, where our live job writing team will receive that and provide feedback within a 24-hour period. So in this case, you just hit submit resume. You can upload your file from your computer or your cloud pack. The maximum file size typically is about 5 megabytes, so practically anything will be okay. If you have any information that you think it would be good for the person reviewing the resume and cover letters to know, you can leave that here in the comments box. Some patrons leave information about if they're applying to a specific job. They may include details from the ad, information about the cover letter, the resume. They can include here, and the job coach will take that into account when they're working on the review. Now, once you've submitted that, and within 24 hours, you can come back and you'll notice this red box here under the submit resume shows a 1, and you have a paper in your inbox. You can also find that in your My Message Center. This is where you'll see files that have been uploaded within a live session will also be stored, but also files that you've submitted to the Resume Lab, such as this one, and then the file sent back by the job coach will be highlighted in blue. Now let's take a look at what a sample Resume Lab review looks like. There we go. So what you're looking at here is a provider response form for a resume. It's generally a lot of information about suggestions to improve a resume, basic information such as, in this case, most HR managers quickly scan resumes for information. So it's best not to have a resume that's more than 2 pages. Always put down pertinent contact information so that the potential employer can actually reach you. There's also a section geared towards the different formatting of resumes, and included are PDF files specifying chronological resumes or functional resumes and combination resumes. And then following that, there's more information about the patron's resume. So in this demo submission, there's information about whether to include a LinkedIn URL, or for an entry-level candidate, the resume may not need to be more than even 1 page. Information about certifications, qualifications, and more are all detailed there. Following that, you'll see a version of the patron's resume. This is with some feedback from the job coach. So in this case, they've added a section to include the type of degree that was earned. For example, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, as well as the location of the school. And then finally, the last page will feature the patron's original resume as they were submitted. And so theoretically, as you can see, the patron submitted, I believe, 4 or 5 pages. In this case, the point would be that the patron can see their original resume as they submitted it. They can also see the feedback that was provided from the job coach, as well as a sample version of what their resume can look like. Following receiving this, the patron can then go back and change up their resume with this new feedback. They can even utilize this sample resume and improve their odds of getting contact from potential employers. And of course, if at any time a patron wants more feedback, they're always welcome to connect to a live job coach. So moving down a bit to the tools for job seekers. There are 2 other live options for patrons where they can connect with live resume coaching or live interview coaching. And those would be the same hours as live job coaching. Underneath that, there is a feature for unemployment assistance. This was added at some point last year, and patrons who are going through the process of applying for benefits, or they just have general questions, they can also come here to connect with a navigator who's well-versed in this area. Also, there are additional resources here that provide more information, or if you go to the regional links, specific details for particular states. And in this case, Iowa is here. So this would be a link to the official Iowa, the state page to file a claim, the specific application system, as well as additional information. There are job resources. So these are broken down into both national and local. So for the national resources, the popular job sites, so Simply Hired, Indeed, LinkedIn, and more. There's also a section geared towards veterans. So the Department of Labor, Ready for Hire, GI Jobs, and more. This would be more of a first place to come and look for areas or for sites that you can then use in your job search. Then there are the local resources, and these are specific for Iowa that range from the state website, Teach Iowa, as well as Iowa-specific job search sites for Glassdoor, Indeed, and so forth. And this is a page that is easily customizable. If anyone ever has any suggestions, ideas, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to update this. Then there's Optimal Resume. Optimal Resume is a service that is free to use. It is an add-on where patrons can come to take a look at, let me show you with this. If I go to start a resume, I can browse samples. I can start from prearranged data sets. I can also start from scratch. So I can create resumes. I can do the same for cover letters. I can create portfolios if I'm in a field that has a lot of creativity. So if I'm creating marketing plans, artwork, outreach of some sort, I would have documents to showcase to potential employers. I can create a portfolio of that information there. I can also practice interview questions here. And then when it says create a website, it means you would be creating a website based out of here that contains your resume, your cover letter, any additional information, as well as providing you with a link to share that would bring or not patrons, but give patrons a link to share with others so that they can come and see all their information. Beneath Optimal Resume is an interview resource section with tips for the interview process, information about how to dress for the interview, 100 potential questions from Monster, as well as additional resources that patrons are welcome to use. Then over here on the right column, there is eParachute. This is good for anyone, whether you're someone in school or you've since graduated and you're in a career. With eParachute, eParachute is a digital version of a book that was published a long time ago by, I believe, Richard Bowles, and the digital version is from his son. So what it does is it takes a look at, it tries to gauge what type of work a person would be interested in based on their answers to a series of questions. And in this case, you are going through the different fields about work that interest you, the types of people that you like working with, the types of fields that you enjoy, and skill sets that you enjoy using. Once you go through each of these steps, you answer a series of questions, it will report, or it will churn out a report that shows you the types of work that may interest you. And so if you're someone who's looking for a change in career, or you're not sure and you would just like some ideas to consider, eParachute can assist you. It also can suggest majors that a student could be considering if they're a freshman or a sophomore in school. And of course, they can always go back and change their settings if they choose and see additional suggestions. There's a section for resume templates and resources. So here, a series of templates like we saw earlier. So chronological template, a functional template, but also there are templates for military. There's information about how to translate military skills to the civilian life to enhance your resume once you're no longer working in the military. There's also further information about interview tips, a civilian job search, and more. Further interview tips, questions about your strengths, questions about your background, and more. There's a lot of information here for patrons to check out. What to do after the interview. Should you send a card or a thank you note? The last section in the tools for job seekers is the career prep and job resources. This is a section that, as you can see, lists a ton of different careers, from civil engineers to electricians, nursing, plumbers, and more. Let's choose teachers, for example. So in this teacher section, there are links to information about the teaching profession. There's also different practice tests that patrons can use, and best practice tests. So if you're in the Skill Surfer, which is where let me go back. So this is the skill server section. There's spaces for students. We're focused on career prep and job resources. So if we go back to teachers and choose Praxis Math, for example, we can begin the practice test, and then we go through and complete it. Let's skip ahead to the end. Once we're done with any practice test, like you just saw, if you go to My Test in your account features, you are then able to see the list of practice tests you completed. In our case, we know from today's date, we just completed the Praxis Math test. I can open this up to take a look at how I did. Unfortunately, I got this question wrong. And if I wanted to, I could retake it by clicking on retake. Click OK. And now, if I wanted to, I could go back and complete the Praxis Math test again. So that completes the tools for job seekers. If we take a step back, over here, the Live Veteran Navigator for the VetNow portion of JobNow VetNow. With VetNow, we have several veteran navigators who are available for patrons to connect to. Our navigators are all former military members who have a lot of experience, whether it comes to dealing with the VA, applying for benefits, knowing what's out there. And so when you have a veteran or the family of a veteran who are in a situation where they have questions, they're not sure of where to go, who to talk to, they can connect to a live navigator, tell them their situation, and most times our navigators are going to be able to tell them which agency to reach out to, what local group would be best to contact. In addition to the live veteran navigator option, there's also a send question option down under tools for veterans. So if there's someone who doesn't want to connect to a live person and communicate with them, using send question, they can submit their concern, their question, whatever it is that they're seeking help with. They can submit it here using this box. They can attach documents if they like, and then they click submit. Once they hit submit within a 24-hour period, they'll get a response back to their account. And similar to the Resume Lab, it would be found in their My Message Center. It would show up here and it would be highlighted blue. In addition to the send question, there are additional veteran resources, again, broken down into national and local. So for national, it's divided into particular divisions. So education resources can be found here, employment resources or healthcare resources, housing resources, and plus additional miscellaneous organizations can be found here as well. In addition to the national, there's local, once again geared towards the state of Iowa, and local organizations that are available for the communities. And again, we can customize this page. If you know of any organizations that you think highly of, please let us know and we'll be happy to add them to this listing. So in addition to the JobNow and the VetNow aspect of the live services, there's additional support for learners. So there's a Learn Now section, which takes you to the Skill Surfer, where you can find assistance in a variety of different areas, whether it's high school equivalency exams, college entrance test prep, as we saw earlier, career prep and job resources, information about Microsoft Office, how to write professional emails, information about nursing school exams, praxis, and more, including graduate school exams. All this is available through the Learn Now link on your homepage. Additionally, there's the Flashbulb. So Flashbulb is a digital take on an old study habit, which would have you write down on index cards on one side a phrase and on the opposite side a definition, for example. Well, with this, Flashbulb turns that into a game where you can click on a different set. So in this case, the top one is a collection of terms used in stats. To the left, you'll see a golden check mark, and that is a note that that set has been personally approved by our content curriculum team. There are some that do not. And if you don't see the golden check mark, that only means that that set has been created by a fellow Brainfuse user. So if you were to click into any of these, you're taken to the data, which in this case, the phrase is binomial experiment, an event that has only two possible outcomes, such as success and fail. Now you can go through the set in this context, but a way to make studying more fun and break the monotony, there's different games that can be played using this data. For example, if I were to choose crossword, it turns the data into a crossword puzzle. And if I knew more about stats, I probably could solve this, but unfortunately, I cannot. So the Flashbulb can provide students of all ages a different way to study. And of course, they're always welcome to create their own set based on what they're studying, if they like. So Flashbulb can be a really fun tool. Then there is, let's go to Brainwave. So Brainwave, you may have seen earlier, if we go back to my past sessions, and this option to convert a session to a brainwave. Well, what's a brainwave? If we go to Brainwave, it is a electronic or digital note-taking device. So to create a brainwave, you click on that and you can hit begin recording. It opens up a whiteboard and it will record whatever you do on the whiteboard, whether you type in the chat or you draw anything. It will then create a brainwave featuring that. So if you think about if you're studying something in a book and you're tired, you've been looking at it for hours, you can put it, if it's transferable. So if it's a math equation, if it's a chemistry equation, or if you're trying to memorize a paragraph for a speech, let's say, you can write out the equation or the text and it'll be saved. You can share it with others if you wish. It automatically refreshes and you can play that recording back. So if you want to be able to look back at something instead of just reading it out of a book, for example, you can use Brainwave. Additionally, some people like to convert their sessions into brainwaves, such as this old session. so that they can refer back to it if they want. Also, brainwaves can be shared with others, and all you need is a valid email address. So if a student wants to send something to their teacher, to a friend, they can do so using a brainwave. To the Leap Learning platform, this is pretty cool in that the Leap Learning platform is a series of diagnostic tests, which itself may not sound cool, but there are various types of practice tests that range from English, reading, the GED subjects, science, social studies, college readiness, and more. If you click any of these, you'll be taken to a practice test or the diagnostic test. You then complete the practice test. And once it's done, it will turn out a learning plan for you. So what I did was I believe it was the ACT English practice test. Once you complete the diagnostic test, it will create a course for you that is built based on how you did on that diagnostic test. So if I did the test and I got a third of the questions wrong, it will give me information based on that. If I did the test and I got 10 questions wrong, it will give me a course with information based on that. Now, these different skills are available, and I can go through each one and work on the subject. So in this case, it's vocabulary in context. This writing topic, information about writing. And as I go along, I will be able to see how much I've completed. So a third of SAT reading, interpreting phrases, 40% of topic relevance, and so forth. And I can go back and see how I progressed. I've done a little bit of the full-length SAT practice test information. Now, once you do complete any of these diagnostic tests, if you go back into My Tests, you'll see several that do not have the retake option. That is your cue that those tests were from that, that they were from the Leap Learning platform. Because since they create a learning plan for you, they cannot be retaken. However, patrons are always welcome to create a new user account if they choose, if they would like to take some of those Leap tests additional times. And then lastly, there's Meet. So Meet it provides the ability to patrons to create meeting sessions where they can invite anyone they like, friends, family members, colleagues. Any number of people can be invited. All that's needed is their email address. They don't need to be Brainfuse users themselves. So I would input a friend's email address here. I'd set the date and the time, and I would give them a description of what I'm inviting them to, and I hit send. They will then receive an invite in the mail, and at that appropriate time, they will be able to connect to me in that session. So for example, let me do this for next Tuesday at 11:14 a.m. Now, if I go to my calendar, I will be able to see that session listed for next Tuesday at 11 a.m. I have invited this person, And when it comes to that time, all I need to do is click enter. Now it's too early to do so, but at that time, if I click enter, the whiteboard will pop up and my guest will be able to join me. And once again, any session, so the meet sessions included, would then be saved to my past sessions. The last step would be the adult learner section, which is the rightmost section on your menu up here. And this is for adult learners who perhaps are more focused on very specific areas. So there's a high school equivalency section. There's also one for the US citizenship test, Microsoft Office, and additional information for careers, as well as live tutoring, writing lab help, send questions. For some adult learners, they prefer to come here, and that's okay. So that is the Brainfuse JobNow VetNow service for the State Library of Iowa. And before I give the mic over, there's one last thing, which is the marketing page for all libraries. And this includes information for Help Now, as well as JobNow VetNow. And this is created by our marketing team. And this is also updated on a monthly basis with additional social media messaging that you're welcome to use. But you can find flyers, posters, promos for your websites, social media, and more. I believe you have the link, but of course, if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact us at info@brainfuse.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that really helpful overview. The only question that I have seen come through at this point is if you could remind us of the name of the app that should be downloaded if people want to download.
Sure. So it should be the Brainfuse app.
Okay. So if you head into the App Store and search for Brainfuse, you can get that installed on whatever device. Fabulous. Are there any other questions before we wrap up for the day? And again, I do want to remind folks of that marketing page. I will get that link sent out when we send out our reminder to take the evaluation. I hope folks have found this overview useful. I'm not seeing any other questions come through in the chat, but I will watch that while I do my wrap up here. So as always, we will be sending out an evaluation for you to earn your CE credit. Watch your email for that. I do have most people's first and last name, so you'll complete that evaluation, make sure there's something typed in every field, and you'll hit save, and then the credit will go on your account. If you did not have a chance to watch the similar overviews we did for Help Now, you can find that either on our YouTube channel or on Iowa Learns as well. Search for Brainfuse, and that'll get pulled up. We'll also post a recording of this webinar as well. So thank you to Jonathan. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Look for that evaluation in your email, and everyone enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. So thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, guys. Everyone have a nice day.
All right. Bye-bye.